place where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
Good evening, America. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to the latest edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you, as always, from the nation's capital. The latest mini-government shutdown, well, it's over, with the House earlier today approving the funding package that was passed by the Senate, and then President Trump signed it into law. So the current crisis is over. It wasn't much of a crisis, just a couple of days. The 217 to 214 vote followed the Senate's earlier approval of the package last week. The arrangement followed a Democratic demand for concessions on immigration enforcement following the death of Alex Preddy during a physical altercation with Border Patrol. And those discussions around Homeland Security funding and ICE have been punted to a later date, just a couple weeks ahead. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson explained what's next on that. Take a watch.
The president, the White House, have engaged in good faith with Democrats in the Senate, and they've said they would negotiate on the final bill, the Homeland bill. And you might say, well, now that 96% of the government is funded, it's just 4% what's out there. But it's a very important 4%. Because remember what the Homeland Security bill covers. It's not just Immigration Customs Enforcement. It's not just Customs and Border Patrol. It is TSA. It's the agents who keep us safe in the airports and keep air travel moving. It's the Coast Guard. It's Secret Service. It's FEMA.
It is. Now, we'll have to wait and see how those negotiations proceed. But here's a little dirty secret. We're going to get to this in the second block of the show with Senator Marsha Blackburn. Congress actually passed 5 years of ICE funding last year. It's actually already locked in stone, so Democrats have lost a little bit of their leverage. Now we'll see how that plays out. Now today's vote, 217 to 214 vote, included 42 House lawmakers breaking from their parties. 21 Republicans voted against it, and 21 Democrats voted in favor. How about that? All right, let's go out to my amazing co-host, Amanda Head, who's out on assignment tonight. Amanda, what are you watching from for us from afar?
Well, Don, I'm noticing some comments from folks like Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. And before I show this clip to everyone, I just want to remind folks that the polling is showing exactly what many of our audience is probably feeling. My esteemed co-host is also my editor-in-chief at Just the News, so I'm sure that he was reading my article that I put out this morning at Just the News, talking about two separate polls, a Harvard Caps Harris poll and a Signal poll, both of which show that an overwhelming majority of Americans support President Trump's agenda, that is to deport violent criminals. However, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz apparently has not gotten that message that that is what the American people support. Check it out.
It's been a week since I met with Tom Homan. Expectations have not changed. This force must leave Minnesota. The state of Minnesota and the professionals, nonpartisan judiciary, must do the investigations into the shootings and other abuses of Minnesota's human rights. And this all-out assault on Minnesota across all of state government and all across life must stop. None of this is normal. None of this is okay. None of this makes Minnesota any safer. None of this adheres to the values of this country. All it does is cause terror and trauma.
So I guess he's not reading the polling that we are. All right. And Congressman Jerry Nadler, for many of you remember him, but he made some comments that were interesting because he was talking about the reaction that one would typically have to someone who is wearing a mask. So, of course, I think back to the Summer of Love in 2020 when protesters and rioters were wearing masks supposedly because of COVID, but they were ransacking stores. I was in Los Angeles at the time, and they were going up and down Rodeo Drive and parts of Santa Monica and very ritzy parts of America's best cities, bashing windows, and of course they were wearing masks. So I wonder if Congressman Jerry Nadler felt the same way that he did about that then. So check out this clip.
Really, the major problem in this country today is the fascism in our streets. The attacks on American citizens by masked hoodlums. If you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped. You'd be justified in shooting the person to protect yourself.
Some pretty interesting words that I know a lot of people had reactions to, like I did. All right, we're going to finish up with some comments from Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, of course, from Minnesota. Check them out.
When we say it is time for Kristi Noem to go, we mean it now.
Let's go! Let's go!
When we say there needs to be accountability for the architect of the terror we are facing in Minneapolis and so many other cities, which is Stephen Miller, we mean we need accountability for him now.
Let's go!
So thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining the call to get ICE out of our cities, for us to dismantle this department that is not just rogue, but unlawful.
Wow, pretty amazing comments. Well, our first guest knows a thing or two about law and order. He knows a lot about security and common sense. He's a retired U.S. Marine Corps Lieutenant General and now a congressman for the great state of Michigan. Joining us right now, Congressman Jack Bergman. Congressman, great to have you on the show, sir.
Hey, great to be back with you, John and Amanda.
All right. I want to tackle what happened today. A good day for the taxpayers. At least the shutdown is over temporarily, but there's still a fight ahead. Tell us how you think this DHS funding fight will end when Democrats try their next round of antics.
Well, as you said just a moment ago, 96% the government is funded, but a vast majority of the DHS funding was already put in an earlier bill. So the money is there. What the other side is doing is, unfortunately, this is the same game plan they've had for the 10 years that I've been here in Congress, which is just make up something that they think the American people will buy in a messaging format. Stroke emotion, stroke irrational behavior, all the things that you have been showing. But the point is, we as a responsibility, the president has the responsibility as the commander in chief, as do all 50 governors. The president just is the big guy, if you will, when it comes to the commander in chief of the whole country, to keep all of our citizens safe and secure. Part of that is Department of Homeland Security. Part of that was border security. Part of that is the training. Part of that is the communications and the collaboration with the different agencies that have a dog in the fight in different areas, whether it's state law enforcement agencies. The multiple levels of coordination that go on every day by good people working in Homeland Security are going to continue. And we've got it funded. This was a showboat on the part of the Democrats, especially those in the Senate, it was an emotional attempt by them to scare the American people. And that's just not morally right. By golly, they're good at it and they do it all the time.
Yeah.
Sir, do you think that won them any political points? Because, we are staring down the business end of midterms coming up very soon. And I have to think that Democrats, anything that they are doing at this point is with that in mind.
Well, of course they are. I mean, let's face it. We're a year from now, we will be in the next Congress. We'll be a month into the next Congress. So about 8 months from now is when the voting starts with early voting. So everything that is going on right now with the Democrat Party is to try to regain control of the House. I don't think they have much chance of regaining control of the Senate, and we know that the president is not on the ticket. Our goal as Republicans, as conservatives, is to maintain the trifecta that we have with President Trump's last 2 years as president, remaining 2 years, to be full of more of the goodness that we've seen here in the first year of his second term. So there's a lot at stake here for the American people. And what I ask everybody, vote if you're eligible to vote. And if you're not eligible to vote, don't try to vote, because we're going to find out who you are and we're not going to let your vote count. But there are people who that's their MO as well, to do fraudulent voting. We have the responsibility here in the House of Representatives to do everything we can between now and November to ensure that our incumbents, especially those who are first term or vulnerable, have the resources they need to help them get reelected, and also to help those who are coming in the, if you will, 9+ seats that President Trump won last year that are currently being held by Democrat members. So this is a very targeted operation, and targeting in a good way. I'm a Marine. I'm pretty simple. you know, you look at the target, you identify the target, you twice identify the target, and then you do the right thing to make sure that the target is hit.
Yeah, that is common sense for sure. Sir, one of the things that is pretty clear is that these violent anarchist activities in Minnesota and other locations are well organized, they're well funded, there's a logistical support. They look a little bit like a domestic insurgency. They have some of the hallmarks of some of the psyops and other tactics that we've seen in other insurgencies overseas. Is there a moment now for the Justice Department and the intelligence community to bring down the funders, bring down the material supporters, the logistical operators? It's one thing to arrest the person that throws the rock or the snowball or uses the car to ram an officer, but getting to the funding seems to be a very important part of this.
Well, it is. And, you know, our agents, our law enforcement folks, no matter what agency they're from, again, their first goal is to make sure that they're doing their job, but protecting those around them, not use undue force. But it is our time here now to really kind of pull the cloak, the wolf's, what's this, the old saying, the wolf in sheep's clothing. I get that kind of backwards sometimes, but it's time to pull the sheep's clothing off the wolves. These are the organized groups that have been around since the 60s. For anybody who remembers the Weatherman, the SDS, all of those things started. When I was growing up, as a young college student in Minnesota, I walked all of those streets, and those groups that are doing that now have been targeting Minnesota for over 50 years. But look at the fraud. Look at under the lack of leadership of Tim Walz and all the fraudulent activity that sucked billions of dollars, governmental dollars out, whether it be daycare centers, whether it be different, if you will, schemes. Minnesota has been a hotbed of that, if you will, anarchist activity for a long time. They've just clothed themselves in the sheep's clothing, as I mentioned earlier, about as it relates to the wolf.
Yeah, Sir, when it comes to those dark figures who are trying to undermine this country, whether it's George Soros, Neville Singh, and the CCP, another big piece of their plan is undermining our elections. And it's quite easy, frankly, to do that when you don't have election integrity. But a recent CNN poll found that 76% of Black Americans, 82% of Hispanic Americans, and 85% of white Americans support voter ID. Why on earth can't we get this done?
Well, one side wants to get it done. The other side doesn't want accountability. And we have a few of our people on our side of the aisle who haven't quite figured out how important it is. You're not risking the identity of voters if you do this right, the election integrity, and it is a state level issue commanded, if you will, or controlled by all the secretaries of the various states. But I believe we are overdue to pass the SAVE Act to get it into place so that when people try to vote in November or early voting, whatever it is, it's a positive ID. Nobody gets through an airline security line without a positive ID. What's the difference between that and voting?
Yeah, you're right, sir. Just before we let you go, just a real quick question, sir. Today, a drone that was acting hostile to our troops in the Persian Gulf was shot down, clearly an Iranian drone. What do you make of Iran's intentions at this moment?
Well, as long as Iran is controlled by the Ayatollah and whatever their oppressionist regime that has been in control for a long time, Iran does not respect anyone except their very narrow view of the world. The Iranian people over the last few months have been basically if you will, I'm looking for the right term here. They've been oppressed by the regime to the point of having deaths, killings, all of those things that show that Iran is not anywhere near ready to become a country as long as the people who are in charge are still in charge. So this is an opportunity, and I know President Trump is doing this, he is a president of peace, and his administration is working efforts all across the Middle East and around the world to make sure that these entities, these countries that have been warring in some cases for thousands of years, to come together in a way that we can stop the violence that is way too prevalent in our world today. And President Trump is doing one hell of a job of being out on the front of leading this peace effort.
Yeah, peace through strength is back in vogue in action, which is an amazing thing. Congressman Jack Bergman, it's always a great honor to have you on the show. We honor your service. We also honor your great common sense. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You as well, sir. Thanks so much. All right, coming up next, Democrats refuse to take accountability for fraud in their states. I know you're not surprised by that, but it happens almost every day. We're going to take a look at the new legislation intended to correct that. Senator Marsha Blackburn joining us next after the commercial break.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with your Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Did you ever wonder what truly happened in the COVID-19 pandemic and whether Anthony Fauci would ever be held accountable? I think we all have. Filmmaker Jenner First has an upcoming documentary that searches for truth, transparency, and accountability called Thank You, Dr. Fauci.
Governments lie.
Anthony Fauci put everyone on the planet at risk without their consent.
It's beyond suspicious.
Research caused a pandemic, killed 20 million, and cost $25 trillion. Fauci would prefer a lie.
Public trust, national health, and global security are at stake as this documentary digs through thousands of pages of documents and interviews with former officials and whistleblowers in the most controversial narrative of our time that may also be one of the largest cover-ups in modern public health history.
There was a cover-up.
Why would we trade the Chinese the most advanced biotechnology in the world?
He's a spy.
It's insane.
I don't think this is going to be foolproof. Things are going to slip through.
Fauci knew and lied repeatedly.
Rather than being a partisan hit piece, Thank You, Dr. Fauci is an honest look at the origins of COVID-19 and a potential bioarms race with China. It streams exclusively on Angel Studios app and site starting on October 23rd. And all you need to do is go to angel.com/RAV to stream it. So be ready to watch, question, and share as the quest for truth and accountability continues.
Welcome back, everybody. As the vote to end the government shutdown passed in the House, now it heads to President Trump's desk. But I want to take a look at how to put an end to fraud in our country. As you might remember, the Somali fraud in Minnesota racked up billions of dollars, including suitcases full of cash found in a Minneapolis airport linked to Somali American couriers. And now reports have come out that California might be dealing with the same issues, as fraud allegations are reported to be worse than in Minnesota. To no surprise, Governor Gavin Newsom is playing the race card. He stated this on X. He said, "Our office is reviewing reports that Dr. Mehmet Oz targeted the Armenian American community in Southern California recently, making racially charged claims of fraud outside Armenian-owned businesses. Any and all acts of hate have no place in California." So what is the next step to end this fraud? And will Democrat leaders be held accountable if found guilty of being involved? Joining us now to discuss this is Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. Senator, thanks so much for joining us.
I'm delighted to join you, and thank you so much for turning attention back to this issue of fraud. And this is something we are hearing so much about from Tennesseans, and they're going, hey, wait a minute, you know, what happened to fraud? And going after this fraud in Minnesota, they think that it's as much as $19 billion. There's also some big problems in Ohio, in Illinois, and as you mentioned, the healthcare fraud that is taking place in California.
Senator, I know for a lot of Americans, they probably hear this and they think, okay, an immigrant can come to this country, they can in some cases, be charged and then convicted of fraud when taxpayers are on the hook for that fraud and they can stay here. But with your bill, that will be the case no more.
That is correct. The Fraud Accountability Act actually tightens up the Immigration and Nationality Act and says that all fraud, all of it, local, state, and federal governments being defrauded, will be a deportation or denaturalization event. Plus, if you defraud U.S. citizens, and we're seeing a lot of this through the fraud scams on elderly people, you will be deported, you will be denaturalized. You will have lost your ability to be a citizen of the United States. The American people work hard to earn their money. They send their tax dollars. And when you are defrauding the federal government, you are in essence defrauding the U.S. taxpayer because it is their money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so very important. I want to talk about another achievement. Obviously, the House passage today, the bill goes to the president. We avert or end this very mini shutdown. But the bigger achievement is for the first time in 2 decades, we did regular order budgeting. And for the first time, we don't have a Democratic budget governing Washington. It is a Trump and Republican budget. Tell us the differences that means to the American people.
Oh, yes, indeed. To get these appropriations bills done, John, what it will do, moving us from that Biden budget, or actually it was an Obama budget, where you had these continuing resolutions start, and it gets us off that wheel, and it puts us to a Trump or a Republican budget. The good thing is, because of DOGE, because of our work on spending reductions, for the first time in decades, we are curving the spending down. And to do that in discretionary spending and to begin that process so that we spend less and we don't add to our deficit, thereby we're not adding to our debt. Those are important steps to take. That's where we want to get. And this is a tiny step. It's a first step, but getting off that Biden budget, which was so bloated during COVID, and getting on to the Trump budget, that is step number one. Now, what we will do is finish this last single bill that is out there, and then we get back to reducing what the federal government spends, fighting fraud, fighting waste, and making certain that we are not hiring a lot of people that shouldn't be hired by the federal government.
Well, and Senator, not only is it important to curve that spending down, but to reshuffle the deck and to reprioritize spending away from things like, measuring the effects of cocaine on chickens in Albania and moving it towards Republican priorities. Talk about some of those priorities that Republicans wanted to make sure got the money that went away from some of that frivolous spending.
Yes, and when you look at what we are needing to do to beef up our military and the importance of doing that, building out Space Force, the president's project of having a Golden Dome so that we have a missile defense. And by the way, that goes back to a request that President Reagan had when he wanted to have the missile shield. These are all priorities. Energy and producing more energy, and Tennessee is ranked as the #1 energy producing state in the country when it comes to nuclear energy, and putting more resources into that, changing how we deliver health care. And we were successful in getting the Rural Health Care Transformation Fund into the Working Families Tax Cut, or Big Beautiful Bill. And that is going to put $50 billion into rural health care access over the next 5 years so that more people have access to affordable health care. So putting money into these priorities that are things the American people want to see. They wanted to see the border secure. They wanted to see public safety and criminal illegal aliens removed from the country. They want to see law enforcement supported. They want our nation nation to be strong in the world. They want government spending to be brought under control and to continue to reduce what the federal government spends. They want their taxes to be lower. These are all things that we have worked with the president, we have delivered, and getting these bills across the finish line, that's a big step.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. It gets lost in the conversation in Washington, but It is a historic shift. Senator, I want to turn to the issue of immigration. Some Republicans seem defensive about the current activities in Minneapolis, but the American public, and maybe that's because of the way the traditional media report it, but the public is vastly still in support, supermajority support, getting criminal illegal aliens out, and also requiring state and local officials to turn over any illegal alien who's committed a crime that's in their custody. That's been a big issue in these blue and sanctuary states and cities. Is there anything that Congress can achieve either in the Homeland Security negotiations of the next few weeks or on a separate bill that would stop the idea that a city or state, if it's blue, can harbor a fugitive from immigration law?
Well, John, let me say this. When it comes to DHS approach, what the Democrats have done is really reckless. FEMA's funding makes up 35% of DHS funding. ICE is 11%. And to actually try to defund the DHS when we have had a massive winter storm, and you've got a state like Tennessee, where we have people, 10 days after the storm hit that are still without power. What they've done is reckless. What they're doing with trying to unmask our DHS agents, our ICE agents, federal law enforcement, that is reckless, it is harmful, it is not safe. And I have my no doxing a federal law enforcement bill. And if necessary, we will move that forward in these discussions. It's the right time to do that. I think it's also important to note that under the continuing resolution, the budget for ICE is higher than what the budget for ICE is in the appropriated bill. So they've given them 2 extra weeks of plus-up funding. Also, in the Working Families Tax Cut and Big Beautiful Bill, we funded ICE for the next 5 years. So that funding is already there for them. So the Democrats were just trying to have a little bit of a hissy fit and try to draw some attention their way. I think many of them realize they have now messed up with this, and I think that they have realized that we already had money in the budget for body cameras for ICE that was already negotiated and in there. So they're really not going to get much of anything, and it's funded for the next 5 years.
Grandstanding over ICE, I for one am absolutely shocked. I can't believe that's happening up there. Senator Marsha Blackburn, always an honor to have you with us. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, everybody, we're going to take a very quick break, and we'll be back on the other side.
Hey folks, you might be wondering, when's the right time to start adding collagen to my diet? How about today? Collagen production starts to dwindle in your 20s, and by the time you hit your 50s like me, it's decreased, and it contributes to wrinkles, sagging skin, and joint discomfort. Now, Native Path Collagen can help. It's packed with only type 1 and 3 collagen fibers, the ones your body needs most for healthy joints, for healthy skin, bones, hair, nails, and also, believe it or not, your gut. Plus, it's third-party tested for purity and with no fillers, no additives, and no artificial junk. That's important to me. 2 scoops a day of Native Path delivers 18 grams of protein. Mix it into your coffee, your tea, your soup, or any drink. It's completely flavorless and easy to use. Right now, you can get a special bundle deal at the fraction of the retail price. Plus, you're going to get free shipping. Available at getnativepath.com/justnews. That's getnativepath.com/justnews. With over 4 million jars sold, thousands of 5-star reviews, and a 365-day money-back guarantee, this is your moment to take control of aging before symptoms get worse. So go to getnativepath.com/justnews right now. Supplies are limited and demand is surging. That's getnativepath.com/justnews.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today. When the lights go down, the truth comes out.
This is built like a chicken McNugget, but...
This is After Hours with Alex Stein. No filter.
You're a globalist. You don't care about America.
No apologies.
You're a pro-abortion when you should have been aborted.
The undisputed king of trolling.
I was recently sexually assaulted within the metaverse.
I want to vaccinate your mom.
They tried to cancel us.
Deplatforming works.
She wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina.
Politics, culture, hypocrisy.
They want them to have their penises cut off.
Uncensored and uncontrolled.
Cut your penis off. That's what I'm saying. They admit they want to cut people's penises off.
Late night just got dangerous. After Hours with Alex Stein. Coming soon to Real America's Voice.
Welcome back, America. It's been about 2 decades since a Republican won a statewide office in the state of Minnesota, which used to be a battleground toss-up state. Today, not so much. It's sort of been in the Democrat blue column. But our next guest, he intends on changing that dynamic in the 2026 election. He's a businessman, a Marine veteran, and now the candidate for governor of Minnesota. He is Patrick Knight. He joins us right now. Patrick, great to have you on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
All right. You have jumped in with 2 feet. People are excited, and you've jumped in with a lot of ideas. There is an immediate contrast between you in the Waltz era in Minnesota and any Democrat who chooses to succeed him. Tell us a little bit about what motivated you to get in the race.
Well, I feel like Minnesota's going in the wrong direction on the fundamentals, and the state deserves a competent, accountable leadership that delivers results. We've been suffering from plenty of political theatrics over the last 6 to 8 years while we've been neglecting the basics, and we need to get back to those basics.
And I know from talking to people in Minnesota that the basics are important, having great schools for their kids, having good health care, but when you have so much fraud concentrated in that state, it's hard to have those things. How do you tackle that?
Well, yeah, the fraud is a big issue. It's a federal issue because a lot of the money is federal money that's being dispersed through the state of Minnesota, but a lot of it as well is Minnesota taxpayer money. And as I go around and talk to people, there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of Minnesotans that are working hard, doing everything right, paying their taxes, loving their neighbor, following the rules, living within their means, and they're having a hard time getting by while they see these the tax money just being thrown around like monopoly dollars, and it's generating a lot of frustration. And, not surprisingly, we have net domestic negative migration. More people are moving out of the state, more U.S. citizens are moving out of the state than moving in.
Yeah, that's a trend line that definitely has to be reversed. I was in Florida last week, and someone had picked up on one of your early comments after you entered the race, and they from hundreds of miles away, they were shaking their head in agreement. I think it's a sentiment that perhaps will permeate throughout the 26th election across the country. You said the law is not a buffet table where you get to pick which laws you are going to enforce and not enforce. You have to abide in a law and order country by all the laws. Minnesota seems to be ground zero for that selectivity in law and order.
Yeah, I mean, it's very frustrating, and we see the chaos it creates when different law enforcement organizations at different levels are not coordinated and following the the same standards. And the law is not a buffet table where an executive who takes the oath of office to effectively execute the laws just chooses some days or some years or in some administrations to enforce laws, for example, immigration laws at the federal level, and then the next administration does. It just screws up the whole constitutional system when different branches go outside their lanes and try to do things outside of their lanes. So we need to be the rule of law country and the rule of law state.
Yeah, so important.
Absolutely. I think barely even 10 years ago, Minnesota was not necessarily considered the blue stronghold that it is now. Is that because of wonky elections? Is it because of the way that they are manipulated? Why is that? Because I know that there are parts around Minneapolis and St. Paul especially that are not deep blue.
And that's a great question, and that's something that I and my colleagues in the race are trying to figure out, because we really are a 50-50 state in many respects. We have 8 congressional districts, 4 Republican, 4 Democrat. The state legislature, both the House and the Senate, are basically evenly divided, but for whatever reason, statewide races, Republicans have not won since Tim Pawlenty in 2026. And, we're working hard to figure out exactly why that is and come up with a strong conservative message to win in Minnesota, because the state, there's a lot of good, strong conservatives in the state, and the fundamentals matter, and that's where we are strong. I think the facts are on our side and the values are on our side.
Yeah, no doubt. I want to ask about a dynamic. It actually kind of befuddles me a little bit. If I had a family member who robbed a bank and then they hid out in my home and I got caught doing that, I would be charged with harboring a fugitive. But in Minnesota, there are hundreds of fugitives from immigration law that the cities and the state will not turn over. How important is it to change that dynamic? And will a Knight administration immediately reverse those policies? And secondly, do you think a Governor Walz or a Mayor Fry or someone who currently harbors an immigrant fugitive should be prosecuted by the federal government?
Well, there's a saying in the military, I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps, lead, follow, or get out of the way. And right now, the mayor and the governor seem to be more in the way at this point. The city of Minneapolis has state ordinances city ordinances in the city of Minneapolis to prevent their police department from collaborating with the federal government law enforcement efforts. And the supremacy clause of the Constitution, of course, puts federal law above state law, although it's a little bit of a gray area whether or not the state has to, or the city has to actively participate in the enforcement of federal law. But, from a governor standpoint, the governor can surge the state patrol to help where the city police are not helping. The governor can surge the Bureau of Criminal Apprehensions, which is basically like the state FBI, to surge and make up for the gap where the city is not participating. But it's not a criminal offense to not actively support the federal immigration law.
Mm. Patrick, people probably look at these protests and they think, man, there are a lot of Minnesotans who don't like what ICE is doing. But you're also seeing a lot of buses transporting people who might not necessarily be Minnesotans. And John was talking about the polling with respect to the approval rating for getting violent criminals, violent illegal aliens out of this country. And it is a very, very strong majority in support of continuing to do that. Is that what you find when you're talking to constituents there?
Yes, and I think that is a clear point that you make, which is targeted immigration enforcement towards immigrants that pose a public safety risk or national security risk or are criminals. There's very strong support for that. And to flame tensions even more is it seems to be the state, in some cases the city, and other leaders are using third parties, let's say protesters, to get in the way of the enforcement. Now, it's a little bit of an attenuated connection, but it still makes things much more difficult on the ground to go after those criminal illegal immigrants.
Yeah, so important. Before we let you go, you've had a chance now to talk to constituents all around your state. A Knight administration is clearly going to be a very different administration from the Tim Walz years. But what are the top three things that you will do that will be most noticeable to voters if you're elected governor?
Well, stop the fraud. And it's not just as simple as putting in some accounting controls. I think it's a cultural rot. It starts at the top. It starts with leadership, and it's putting in a varsity team of competent, trustworthy people that will stop the fraud and rebuild a culture of excellence. Number two is building the economy. And there's a very simple equation. Economic growth creates opportunity. Education allows people to capture that opportunity, and safe streets allows people to protect and nurture that opportunity, and you get a virtuous cycle. And that's not me just making that up. It starts with Aristotle, goes through the Roman Republic, down to the founding fathers through James Madison. And so we've got to get the economy going. Our economy is in the bottom third of all states in economic growth. We've been neglecting that for the last several years. Companies have 50 states in which to choose from, and they're choosing not Minnesota. And then education, and part of that as well as public safety. But education, we used to be top 6 in the country 8 years ago. Now we've been ranked as low as 19th. So stop the fraud, get the economy going again, and then get education going.
3 popular ideas for sure. For people watching, if they want to learn more about your campaign or get involved, what's the best way for them to do that?
Thanks for asking that. Yeah, it's knightgov.com, KNIGHTGOV.com. And tonight, the regular season kicks off for the campaign, which is tonight is caucus night. So any Minnesotans listening, please come out and support me.
Yeah, that's a big moment. Patrick, what a great honor to have you on the show. We've been watching this campaign closely. Very exciting. We'll be sure to have you back on soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, what a great conversation. All right, folks, coming up next, February is National Cancer Prevention Awareness Month. That's important. We'll take a look at some alternative low-cost methods to lower your risk of cancer. It's going to be a fun conversation. More on that next, right after these messages.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today. When the lights go down, the truth comes out.
This is built like a chicken McNugget, but
this is After Hours with Alex Stein. No filter.
You're a globalist. You don't care about America.
No apologies.
You're a pro-abortion when you should have been aborted.
The undisputed king of trolling.
I was recently sexually assaulted within the metaverse.
I want to vaccinate your mom.
They tried to cancel us.
Deplatforming works.
She wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina.
Politics, culture, hypocrisy.
They want them to have their penises cut off.
Uncensored and uncontrolled.
Cut your penis off.
That's what I'm saying. They admit they want to cut people's penises off.
Late night just got dangerous. After Hours with Alex Stein. Coming soon to Real America's Voice.
Welcome back, everybody. It is February, and that means that it is National Cancer Prevention Awareness Month, and we have some practical steps to reduce your cancer risk to get to now, and some affordable strategies that we can put into place to stay healthy. So joining us to discuss this is cardiologist and chief scientific officer at the wellness company, Dr. Peter McCullough. Dr. McCullough, welcome back.
Thank you.
want to start with a new product that you guys have, Shield. Tell our audience about it. It sounds really, really exciting.
Yeah, well, Dr. Kelly Victory, who's on our chief medical board, she's a cancer survivor herself, and so she had a great interest in trying to assemble the most powerful set of botanicals, both medicinal and culinary herbs, where there are scientific data to support the notion that, they raise our defense systems against cancer. And so it's a system. Shield is 3 soft gels a day, and they contain a lot of extracts of culinary herbs, olive leaf and oregano and garlic. And then it's also a drink, and the drink is able to deliver high doses of various medicinal mushrooms and other anti-cancer ingredients. And so the idea here is I'm recommending it for my cancer survivors, patients with active cancer, because it's something they can do in addition to, their traditional ways of treating cancer and follow-up. And it's leveraging the body's own defenses to snuff out any more cancer cells that arise.
Yeah, it's so important. I want to get into the oncology signals we seem to have in the post-COVID era. I have lost more friends and family members in the last 2 years to cancer, people in their 40s and 50s that were perfectly healthy and then suddenly had a turbo cancer that took them out in a few short weeks or months. What are we seeing and learning from that? I know you had a really phenomenal conversation the last couple of days on your show with the Brown University cancer researcher, but there seems to be a clear signal emanating from the data.
There is Dr. Wafiq El-Diri. He was on Focal Points, but he's published a paper in his own journal, OncoTarget, summarizing all the cancers that have risen through the pandemic. And in short, he thinks most of the risk is due to the spike protein, which we get in our body from the infection or from the vaccine. The spike protein drops our defenses against cancer. So if a cancer is beginning to form, and this is through the time of the pandemic, that's the reason why these cancers are more severe and they proceed at a more rapid rate. So, our responses for this are clearly the spike detoxification, and Wellness Company was the first to have a product specifically for that. Additionally, being very vigilant about, any new changes in the body, trying to detect cancer early, and then the new product combination Shield. So at Wellness Company, we're trying to face this head on. I think cancers will become more frequent and more severe for several years to come.
Wow.
Dr. McCullough, it seems like there's so much conversation dedicated to treating cancer, but when it comes to the front end of it, preventing cancer, other than stay out of the sun and don't get sunburned, you don't really hear a lot of ways to prevent it. Why is that?
Cancer has been one of these situations where there's very little we can do for screening. So there's screening for prostate, lung, ovarian, uterine, breast, colon. But that's not much. I mean, there's no way to screen for a brain cancer or a pancreatic cancer. So I'd like to see the National Cancer Institute move into genetics. I think the big step would be, having predictive cancer genetics so we can know what's, in store for us, and then, various interventions. So, for instance, naturopathic doctors have told us about cancer prevention diets. There's a way to orient the diet to be, protective against cancer, just like a diet that's protective against the development of heart disease. But you're right, we need to get into the mindset of preventing cancers and not just early detection and treatment.
So before we let you go, this just broke a little bit ago, but the plastic surgeons, American Society of Plastic Surgeons today declared that they are now recommending that no person consider gender changing surgery until they're at least 19. That's a big change in the medical world. Obviously, that is something that the Trump administration has been advocating. Great Britain, I think, did it a couple of years ago. Just get your reaction to that news that just came out a little bit ago.
It's on the heels of a lawsuit. There was a malpractice lawsuit where there was a big award to a plaintiff, a 16-year-old girl who was seduced into changing her gender. She had a mastectomy and probably other treatments that she regretted. And age 22, she filed a lawsuit. and she prevailed. And now there's a big payout. I think malpractice companies are going to drop doctors and hospitals that do transgender surgery. I mean, the American Society of Plastic Surgery immediately changed their stance. A day after this lawsuit was, the verdict was announced, John. I hate to say it, but it wasn't morals, ethics, wasn't rational scientific conversation. It was actually a lawsuit that's probably going to change, turn the tide on this transgender madness.
Pure
that
economics.
was not following the science. That was following the money.
Amazing.
Cardiologist and Chief Scientific Officer over at the wellness company, Dr. Peter McCullough. Always a pleasure having you with us. So we learned so much from you.
You on.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. And to our viewers, if you are interested in any of those products that we just discussed, go over to www.twc.health/justnews today, and you can order. That's twc.health/justnews, and use the promo code JUSTNEWS to save 10%. We're going to take a break. We've got one more segment on the other side.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today. When the lights go down, the truth comes out.
This is built like a chicken McNugget, but...
This is After Hours with Alex Stein. No filter.
You're a globalist. You don't care about America.
No apologies.
You're a pro-abortion when you should have been aborted.
The undisputed king of trolling.
I was recently sexually assaulted within the metaverse.
I want to vaccinate your mom.
They tried to cancel us.
Deplatforming works.
She wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina.
Politics, culture, hypocrisy.
They want them to have their penises cut off.
Uncensored and uncontrolled.
That's what I'm saying. They admit they want to cut people's penises off.
Late night just got dangerous. After Hours with Alex Stein. Coming soon to Real America's Voice.
Welcome back, America. It's an election year. That means that election integrity is on the top of the minds of voters. And as we've discussed before, a recent development in Georgia highlights the ongoing challenges in the electoral system as 300,000 votes were certified without proper review. We've talked about how with laws like the SAVE Act, that would help fortify elections. So we make sure that we want to stay on folks on Capitol Hill. So now we're going to talk to someone in the race for Congress in Georgia's 14th district to give us some insight into the fight to restore election integrity. Jim Tully. Jim, great to have you on.
Thanks, Amanda. Hey, John. Thank you so much.
Good to be with you.
Glad to have you, Jim. You know, Georgia was one of the first states after the 2020 election to really look at some integrity measures. But I think Georgia voters, as I talk to them, they are not satisfied. What else needs to be done in Georgia?
Well, we need to get to the bottom of the problem. They've always told us that it was none of our business, but when you tell that it's none of their business, they make it their business. So that's what happened. Our elections in Georgia are fraught with problems, open primaries. We still have drop boxes, although they're a little bit better secured, but there's still a problem. And absentee ballots on demand. The citizens of Georgia are working diligently with full court press to make sure that.
Yeah. That's so important. Jim, I want to ask a little bit about the SAVE Act. It looks like Democrats want to try to stop that, but giving a citizen check for every person before they register and before they vote would be a big step forward. Doesn't seem like a hard thing to do, but it's being called Jim Crow 2.0 by Democrats like Chuck Schumer. Your reaction to that concept?
Well, Americans have a right to identify themselves, to participate in the most important republic freedom-generating process, and that's voting. We need to know who's doing that. We need to know that they're legal to do that, and it's just common sense. I don't know why anybody would think that it's not. We have to show ID to vote. I mean, to plain, get a prescription filled, but apparently voting is a problem.
Jim, I happen to know that you encounter voters who say, "Oh, you're running for MTG's seat," and I know you have a very, very pertinent correction for them. Tell it to us.
I'm sorry, Amanda, you broke up a little bit.
I said, I know you encounter a lot of voters who say that's MTG's seat, but in fact, it is We the People of Georgia's seat, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Mark represent the people of the district, and it is empty. So I'm running to represent those people. It's their seat. It is by the people, for the people, and the citizens of Northwest Georgia are acutely aware of that, and they are looking for somebody to take care of them first, to take care of their families, Georgia, and then America first, in that order. And we make no bones about that we're here. This job is theirs, not mine.
Yeah, what a great idea. There was a pretty big moment last week. The FBI showed up in Fulton County outside of Atlanta, raided the warehouse where the 2020 ballots were taken, about 700 boxes of ballots seized by the FBI. I got a chance to look at the search warrant over the weekend. It says that they're investigating possible violations of 2 laws that prohibit election workers from engaging or enabling fraud or stopping a fair and free election. That's a pretty significant moment. 5+ years after the election. What's been the mood and the reaction in Georgia to that event?
Just short of celebration. We have, like I said, the team has worked from multiple fronts would take place, and it did, and it's some sort of, it's a small vindication at this point. But we're going to see that there was rampant fraud in Georgia and other states. Hopefully this courage that's occurring in Georgia will, let other states take this same position and say, we're going to find ours too. We all saw it. There's no denying what we saw. They think that we're not smart, but we're absolute. And
I bet you Arizona may not be far behind Georgia.
I think so.
Good deal.
Jim Kelly, candidate for U.S. Congress in the great state of Georgia. Thanks for being with us, sir. We'll see you soon.
Thank you all. God bless you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great to have you. Yeah.
Absolutely. John, I keep seeing viral videos of kids in high school walking out to protest ICE, and I just keep wondering if they have any idea what they are doing or if their parents and their teachers are pushing them to do it.
Yeah, that's a great question. Listen, I think that the education system is the next great reform target in America. These teachers' unions are exercising too much propaganda control. They're not teaching academics, they're teaching political philosophy, and that's not what we send our kids to school for.
That's right. Well, the chickens are going to come home to roost eventually. That's it for us tonight, everybody. Have a wonderful one. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today. When the lights go down, the truth comes out.
This is built like a chicken McNugget, but
This is After Hours with Alex Stein. No filter.
you're a globalist. You don't care about America.
No apologies.
You're a pro-abortion when you should have been aborted.
The undisputed king of trolling.
I was recently sexually assaulted within the metaverse.
I want to vaccinate your mom.
They tried to cancel us.
Deplatform